Alright you guys, I already know what all of the comments and what all of the assumptions are going to be before I even get into this video, because if you happen to read the title of the video before clicking on it, which I'm hoping most of you did, because there is a new kid on the block that just came into the league from the 2021 NBA draft, who I personally think is not only the best player to come out of the 2021 draft class, but more so one of the best prospects in general we have seen come into the league over the last couple of years. And this, as you could probably tell, is none other than Jalen Green of the Houston Rockets. Why I'm so adamant and confident in what I've been saying so far is what we are going to be diving into and discussing in today's video. One sec, you guys, if you haven't yet, don't forget to leave a like on the video if you enjoy, subscribe, and turn on those noties to never miss another NBA video. Love you guys. Now, for any of you guys that don't really follow the NBA outside of the playoffs and the regular season, in case you didn't know, NBA Summer League started last weekend as I am recording this video, and if you happen to miss Jalen Green's Summer League debut, I truly do feel sorry for you, because this man absolutely tore up the game, dropping 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists, while also shooting 50% from the field overall and 4 for 9 from threes, netting out to 44.5%. Now I know I am not going to be basing my opinions in this video strictly on one Summer League game performance, because we have seen people do this a lot with players in the past, and it's kind of hilarious when we look back on it. But watching Jalen Green absolutely dominate this Summer League game with the performance he put up only helps solidify the case in my head even more about how confident I am this man is going to be an NBA superstar. And it's funny because as we wrap up the talk about the small sample we have from Jalen Green in the Summer League so far, this is actually, believe it or not, a step down in the level of competition he has been facing for the last year or so. Because if you don't pay much attention to players before they make it into the NBA, Jalen Green actually skipped college to play 1 year in the G League prior to entering the draft. And in this one season in the G League, Jalen Green was able to put up some very solid averages of around 18 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists per game, while also putting up some shooting splits of around 46% from the field overall, 36.5% from 3, and 83% from the free throw line. And I know these stats aren't anything crazy, but when we look into the fact that Jalen Green was the 19th highest scorer throughout the entire G League season as an 18-year-old going into the league, I really think it says a lot, especially when we compare the competition level of the G League to his fellow draftees that played in college for 1 year or even more. I also do want to mention that in Jalen Green's one playoff game in the G League this year, putting up a very impressive stat line of 30 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists. So I think it's pretty obvious to most from all of the stats that I read off to you so far that this man can definitely put the ball in the hoop, and with the situation that Jalen Green is being drafted into, I feel like it's going to have a monumental impact and reasoning as to why I believe he will be the best player to come out of this class. Because if any of you watching paid the slightest bit of attention to the Houston Rockets in the 2021 season, I think you can agree with me that this team was a dumpster fire to say the very least. And when I say dumpster fire, believe me, I mean this in the nicest way possible, because even though this team was outright tanking the entire year, there are two main pieces that I think have so much potential going forward for this Rockets team. These two pieces, which will now play alongside Jalen Green for the future, are Kevin Porter Jr. and Christian Wood. Because unless you guys forgot to give you a brief overview of both of these players, Kevin Porter Jr. became the youngest player in NBA history this season to drop 50 plus points and 10 plus assists in a single game. And along with this, you got Christian Wood, who relatively came out of nowhere over the last couple of years, is now considered one of the best uprising bigs in the entire NBA. And some of you might be wondering why I'm going off on a little rant about both of these two players that Jalen Green will be playing alongside. And the reason this ties into the level of success I think Jalen Green will have kind of divvies up into two major points. One being that yes, this isn't the most built out roster possible that Jalen Green could have went to, but it still has some really young solid pieces that I think will fit perfectly into the style of play of Jalen Green. And on top of the fact that Jalen Green at least has a somewhat decent roster around him, is that this man is being thrown right into the position of being the leader of an NBA team. And I know as I'm talking throughout this entire video, it could come back to haunt me tremendously. And I really do think from what I have watched of this man so far that he is more than capable of doing this. I'm going to assume for most people watching that you have not seen Jalen Green play as much as you probably would to be able to make an assumption about him. So let's get into some of the biggest strengths and weaknesses with Jalen Green's play according to many NBA scouts and analysts. From what we've seen out of Jalen Green so far, both in the G League and his one Summer League game, it's very obvious to most people. He is ultimately an elite scorer who has a higher level of shot creation than most other top prospects coming into the league. On top of this, using his dribble mechanics to kind of push into those two categories just mentioned, and on top of that, being a freak athlete as well, as I'm sure most of you have noted through some of the dunks that you have seen throughout this video. However, it's also obvious that every NBA player tends to have their weaknesses weaknesses. The two biggest weaknesses I could think of from what I've seen so far include the fact that he is a very streaky shooter. It's either hit or miss at some points, and it's also safe to say that defense is the biggest area of his game that needs some work throughout the first years of his development. The fact of his defense being one of his weaknesses isn't necessarily to the point that he can't play defense and that he can't keep up with others, but more so to the fact that he is only 180 pounds right now, making him one of the lightest players on the court at all times. Either way, that's something that will probably change over time, as again, he is just 19 years old right now. But also, to get into some player comparisons for Jalen Green, some of the top comparisons I've seen include players like young Ray Allen, maybe even Zach LaVine or Kelly Oubre Jr. And again, these are just some that I have seen frequently. We all know that player comparisons can come back to look hilarious when it is all said and done. We all know the comparisons are inevitable while these players are entering the league. I also do know that when discussing Jalen Green, a lot of people are going to be asking the question of, if he is so good, then why was he taken number 2 and Cade Cunningham above him? Don't get me wrong either, this video is not being made to slander Cade Cunningham or any other draft pick for that matter, as I'm sure you guys heard time and time again, as well as I do, when we're talking about some of the top prospects in this draft, that all three players in Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, and Evan Mobley were looked at by many NBA teams around the league as consensus number 1 picks, resulting in all three teams having the top 3 picks, just picking for what they thought was the perfect fit in the situation they have right now. I don't know, you guys, honestly, to put it as simply as I can, from everything that I have seen from this man so far, that I am a Jalen Green stan. I'm not even a Houston Rockets fan in particular, for anyone who might have been assuming so. I just watched this man a ton throughout the G League, and I've been waiting to watch him in Summer League, and he seriously just continues to impress me more and more every time I tune in to watch this man. So you don't have to agree with me, you could call me crazy, and again, this video might come back to haunt me. I'm going with my gut in telling me that Jalen Green is one of the best players to come into the NBA that we have seen over the last couple of years. And with everything I've mentioned so far, I'm also really curious to hear what you guys have to think. Please let me know in the comments down below. Do you think Jalen Green is the consensus best player to come out of this draft class? Do you think it's going to be Cade Cunningham? Do you think it's going to be Evan Mobley? Do you think it's going to be any other player that was drafted? I want to hear what you guys have to say. But also, if you guys haven't already, don't forget to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe while you're down there. Said it before, and I will say it again, you guys, brand new NBA content on a daily basis. Trust me, you don't want to miss out. On that note, I just wanted to say again, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you guys more than anything in the world. You all know this, and I will see you guys in the next video.